I was driving home from a client meeting in the outskirts of Portland, Oregon, around 11 p.m, when the detour signs forced me down a narrow country road. The fog had rolled in thick, muting the headlights and turning the trees into looming shadows. I thought the road would cut a few minutes off my drive, but I should have trusted my instincts. The first time I noticed her, she was standing at the edge of the woods, just beyond a curve in the road. At first, I thought it was someone stranded, waving for help, but the shape didn't move naturally, didn't shift, or gesture the way a person would. She wore a long, dark coat, and her face was obscured by a wide hat that shadowed her features. There was a stillness to her that made the hairs on my neck prickle. I slowed my car, almost instinctively. That's when she raised her hand, just slightly, and I felt it before I understood it. A weight pressing against my chest, a tugging in my stomach, like the world had grown denser around me. My pulse spiked and I pressed the accelerator. She didn't move, and yet when I glanced in the rearview mirror, I could see her closer, still standing at the same curve, impossibly present. I reached a small cluster of houses along the road and breathed a temporary sigh of relief, thinking the fog had played tricks on me. I parked in front of my friend's house, he wasn't home, and sat for a moment, trying to calm down. That's when the knocking started, light, deliberate, coming from the passenger side window. My breath caught in my throat. I looked. Nothing. The fog, the trees, the empty street. Silence. I shook my head, told myself it was exhaustion, that the stress of work was playing tricks. I unlocked the door and ran inside, locking it behind me. The house was small, a single story with an open-plan kitchen and living area, but it felt suddenly vast and cold. The lights flickered. My stomach churned. Something wasn't right. Then I saw the marks on the floor. Small scratches, not from furniture, forming shapes I didn't recognize. Sharp, deliberate angles etched into the wood. I bent down to look closer. There was a faint powder, reddish-brown, sprinkled along the lines, and a metallic tang in the air that made my throat burn. My hands trembled. Before I could think further, a draft whipped through the living room. The front door, which I had locked, creaked open by itself. I froze. My phone was dead, no way to call for help, and I realized the windows were fogging from inside, as though something cold and wet had entered the room. I backed into the kitchen. The knives were on the counter, shining in the dim light. I wanted to grab one, but as I reached out, I felt it. A push, almost tangible, as though the air itself were pressing against me. My chest tightened. I stumbled backward and hit the fridge. The knives clattered to the floor, echoing in the suddenly enormous space. Then she appeared, not from the door, not from the shadows, but standing near the stove, perfectly still, her hat tilted down. The coat was heavy, brushing the floor. Her hands were empty, or so I thought, but I could feel a presence around them, like the air itself was bending to her will. The floor beneath my feet seemed to pulse. Every step I took toward the door made it harder to move, as if gravity had shifted in that small house. I ran to the living room. The scratches on the floor had multiplied, dark powder now circling in several places, and the air hummed with something low, insistent, like chanting from beneath the house. I pressed my hands to my ears, trying to block it out. My heart was racing, my vision narrowing to the edges of the room, the shadows, the faint outline of her coat. I tried the door. It wouldn't budge. Windows were locked, but the fog pressed against them like fingers. I was trapped. The humming rose in pitch, the powder on the floor spiraling faintly. Then the temperature dropped suddenly, so fast that my breath fogged in front of me. I shivered violently. A movement in the corner caught my eye. She was there again, closer, though I hadn't seen her move. I ducked behind the couch. The hum became a whisper, circling my ears. I felt her gaze on me, piercing, measuring, waiting. I could smell the damp, earthy odour of her presence, the smell of wet soil and burnt leaves. I scrambled to the hallway, toward the bedroom. The lights flickered violently as I passed. The floor seemed uneven, the scratches now forming a loose circle around the middle of the room. I could feel her behind me. I didn't dare turn. I ran into the bedroom, slammed the door, and pushed the dresser against it. My chest heaved, sweat pouring down my face. Then it happened. The bundle. It wasn't there a moment ago, and now it sat on the bed. Twigs bound with dark cloth, faint smoke rising, curling toward me. My stomach turned. I wanted to throw it out, burn it, anything, but I was frozen, staring. The whispers returned, sharper now, words I couldn't comprehend. I covered my ears, sank to the floor, heart hammering. I tried to move, crawl toward the dresser, but the floor pulsed, pushing me back. The temperature plummeted further. My fingers went numb. I realized I couldn't just run out anymore. The house itself felt against me. The air thickened, making each breath a chore. I felt her presence in the walls, in the floor, in the air around me, wrapping me in pressure. And then she moved, slowly, deliberately, stepping closer. Her shadow stretched across the room, darker than any shadow should be. She raised a hand, and the smoke from the bundle coiled around it, thick and acrid, the smell filling my lungs. I gagged, retched, fell backward. Every instinct screamed to flee, but the room had changed. The doorway looked distant, warped. I crawled, dragging myself to the dresser, and somehow managed to slide it across the doorframe. The door creaked, and I bolted into the hallway. The lights flickered wildly. The scratches on the floor seemed to lead me, pulling me toward the staircase to the basement, an open trap. I resisted, ran past toward the front door. It was still locked. I found a heavy umbrella in the closet and gripped it like a weapon. Every shadow in the house seemed to shift, following me. I made a break for the back door. The fog pressed against it, wet and thick, and I felt her hand on my shoulder, even though no one had touched me. I spun, umbrella raised, and saw her in the doorway, blocking the path. I threw myself past her, pushing through the fog, the bundle's smoke curling around my legs. I stumbled into the yard, rain pouring, slick ground, chest burning. The whispers faded, the pressure lifted slightly, but I knew she was still there, just beyond the tree line, watching. I ran to my car, unlocked it with trembling hands, and didn't stop until the road behind me disappeared into distance. Even now, the image haunts me. The shadow of the coat, the curl of smoke, the pulse of those scratches. The night left a mark I can't erase.